Well, it wasn't the game one that 76ers fans expected, losing 111 to 102 to the Brooklyn Nets. Marc Narducci, Keith Pompey. Keith, kind of a stunner in the fact that the Sixers really laid an egg in this game, starting off with their three-point shooting, 3 for 25.
Yeah, I mean it was a stunner, but at the same time, was it really a stunner? And I don't mean to be negative, but when you look
Yeah,
at how the Sixers played in the last couple games,
yeah,
they've been struggling.
yeah.
And this was just another game where they struggled. I mean, you look at it, it just seems like, Tobias Harris has been in a little funk lately. It seems like when the team plays with Joel Embiid, it's one of those things where who's going to step up. Today, Jimmy Butler stepped up, but it just seemed like everyone else just looked around and regressed. And another thing is the defense has been struggling a lot lately, and it looked like they just took advantage of. Okay, is J.J. Garden him? Okay, he gets the ball. Let's run through him. So it was just a bad matchup for the Sixers.
Yeah, Karis LeVert, especially just driving the basket at will. Embiid had 22 and 15, but he didn't look himself, Keith.
No, I mean it's two things. You know, Embiid missed 14 out of 24. The 14 of the final 24 regular season games.
Yeah.
He's also, you look at him, you can see 10 to 15 pounds heavier than he was. Since the All-Star break, he's out of shape. He has to get in rhythm, and he looks like he's still hobbling.
Yeah.
I mean, there was times where he bumped the knee, and you're like, wow, is he going to be okay? So, yes, he had those stats, but it was more volume than it was being effective.
Yeah, how about wasting 36 points from Jimmy Butler, who was tremendous?
Yeah. I mean, that was a tough one for Jimmy. I mean, you look at it, and Brett Brown was asked, typically when you see situations like that, you see a guy and he wills their team to win. It's like when you're playing that good, you're saying, oh, he's going to bring them back, and they're going to follow his lead. And unfortunately, like you said, it was a wasted 36 points. But it was a great effort. And the one thing I will say about Jimmy is, a lot of people were saying, what are we going to get from Jimmy Butler in the postseason? What are we going to get? Well, hey, look and see what Jimmy Butler did. He played phenomenally.
Yeah, and Butler, despite scoring 36, actually said he could have done better.
I think I can score the ball pretty decent. The thing that bothered me most, though, to tell the truth, is the fact that I didn't have a single assist. I think if I'm getting everybody involved and getting everybody else easy shots, I think the game goes a different way. I'll go study the film and see how I can find my teammates better, to tell you the truth. I think if everybody's clicking, Tobias, JJ, it takes away from my points a little bit. I'm fine with that, but I think we have a better shot of winning.
Keith, the other thing, Amir Johnson caught on television with a cell phone in the fourth quarter. He was not available to reporters afterwards, but the Sixers, Elton Brand made a statement, and then Amir Johnson made a statement. Wow, it's not a very good look.
Now, that was a bad look for the 76ers. And the thing about Amir is, like, he's a guy that you want to cut slack. I mean, because he's such a great guy, a great teammate. And, Joel Embiid said that Amir's daughter was sick, and that's the reason why he had the cell phone. We don't know because we didn't talk. We didn't talk to Amir, but that's what Joel said. But when you look at it, it was just a bad look for the 76ers overall. I mean, you look at it, here's the third seed. They got destroyed by the Brooklyn Nets. The game wasn't as close as the final outcome. And in addition to that, it looks like a team that's out of control, a team that has cell phones on the bench, and while your team is losing, and you have Amir, one of your veterans, and you have the best player, one of the top 5 players in the league looking at a cell phone. So it's just not a good look for the 76ers right now.
And speaking of not a good look, they have a lot that they have to do before Monday's game against Brooklyn. What do you think is the biggest thing that they have to do when they play the Nets in Game 2 here?
Man, maybe they got to clone Jimmy Butler. I mean, the problem is that the Sixers, they need, we've been saying this for a while, that they need a defensive stopper on the perimeter. You know, Jonathan Simmons was supposed to be that guy. He didn't have a really good showing. You know, James Ennis, hopefully when he comes back, he can make some stops. But that's not going to help him on Monday. And it just seems like with this roster, like J.J. Redick, for instance, he's a great shooter, but he can't make stops against these guards.
No.
So, like you're saying, what do they need to do? That's why I said you need to clone Jimmy Butler, or you just have to, hate to say it, you have to make shots and hope that you can outscore this team.
You know, and Ben Simmons has to have a better game as well. He just didn't have a good game.
No.
We know he's not looking for his offense, but he turned the ball over as many times as he had assists. So it was not a good game for him.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. You know, like he shot 4 for 9. I mean, that was misleading.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of his points came late in the game. I mean, I believe at one point he was 1 for 6, so 4 for 9. He went 3 for 3 in the fourth.
Yeah.
You know, on a couple dunks. You know, it's. I mean, when we did our podcast, you said if Brooklyn was going to steal a game, it was going to be game 1. I thought they were going to win game 2, so you got me on that. But the one thing is, it just seems like this is a bad matchup for the Sixers.
Well, it's not a matchup they can't win yet.
No.
But they did look, they couldn't have come out in a worse opening effort. So for Keith Pompey, this is Marc Narducci saying, we'll talk to you after game 2.
Peace.